When my mom had come out, she just kind of went into tears. I try not to talk about, possible deployments or stuff like that around her because she does have a problem with us being away.
My Achilles heel is my kids. I'm gonna be super emotional when it comes to my kids. It's just that one place that just gets me every time. Feeling you only get really when they've been away and you haven't really had access to them.
Oh my gosh, what the heck is that? What I'm looking at.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Wednesday, March 6, 2024. It has been a very sad 24 hours, maybe just a little bit more, since we've learned the news about Garrison Brown and his tragic passing. Now today we are getting more details about his final hours, his last text messages that he sent to his family members, and why Janelle was concerned about him after a text message was sent seemingly from Garrison to people they work with. I'm assuming people from the crew or maybe with TLC. And additionally, TMZ obtained a copy of the police report, which provided insight into his final days, what his roommates heard, what they said, and why Janelle actually sent Gabriel over to the home to check on his brother. Yesterday, I had incorrectly reported that Gabriel was living with his brother Garrison, but it turns out that Garrison had roommates living with him, and it wasn't Gabriel that lived with him. In fact, it was Janelle that sent Gabriel over to check on Garrison because they had not heard from him since the previous night, and Janelle was concerned. The news about Garrison's passing has reverberated throughout the online community that watches Sister Wives or has followed the Brown family for more than a decade. Fans have been sending an outpouring of love and support to the family, and family members have shared sort of united messages across their social media about the news and giving very limited details, but simply stating that they were devastated about the loss and that he would leave a huge hole in their lives. So yesterday, the siblings updated his Instagram account, just letting people know that he had tragically lost his life, and the siblings were asking for privacy at this time. TMZ and Radar Online were able to get a copy of the police report for what happened in the days leading up to the tragedy that unfolded on the 5th. This has been something that I don't believe I think the details that'll be provided here will be new to Sister Wives viewers, because this is definitely not anything that they have talked about on the show, and it will be giving more insight into the mindset of what he was facing at the time of this tragedy. So Janelle sent Gabriel to check on his brother on Tuesday morning. And the reason that she did this was because of final text messages that he had sent. So the police made contact with Janelle after they had arrived at the home of Garrison after he was discovered deceased. And they spoke with family members, they spoke with Gabriel, they spoke with the roommates. So they got a better understanding of what was happening. Janelle told them that Garrison had texted a group of people that the Brown family works with, and it says presumably as a part of their show. And the words that he sent were ominous. And according to Janelle, via the police, the text read, "I want to hate you for sharing the good times, but I can't. I miss those days." So sending a text messages to the crew at TLC, "I want to hate you for sharing the good times, but I can't. I miss those days." Clearly, he's upset, and that concerns Janelle. She caught wind of this message even though she was not part of the group message. And so she told police she then texted Garrison herself at which point she said that they had a very brief conversation for a few minutes before he stopped responding to her. She then started contacting her other kids to see if anyone could go check on Garrison, and his brother Gabriel volunteered. But by the time he arrived in Flagstaff, his brother had already died. So when cops arrived at the home after Gabriel had called 911, 3 of Garrison's roommates who he had been living with, and some of them had said they had heard a pop on Monday night, but they didn't think it was a gunshot, and none of them went to check on Garrison to see what happened. So it sounds like Garrison was in his bedroom by himself. The roommates hear a pop. They don't know what it is, and they don't check on him. When Gabriel arrived on the scene, he discovered that his brother was already passed away and that he was holding a handgun. And that's when he called 911. And that's when roommates said that they had realized that Garrison had taken his own life. So Monday night, they hear the pop. By the time Garrison is checked on, it's morning. And the roommates hadn't checked on Garrison yet. And as far as I understand from the way that the police report comes in and the 911 call comes in, Gabriel doesn't get over to Garrison's house until about 10 a.m. on Tuesday morning. The roommates told police that Garrison was known in the household to struggle with alcohol, and Gabriel had said that he didn't realize that anything had been amiss with his brother, and that he had recently taken on a new job at a medical facility, and he seemed to be doing better and okay on his own. And then one final detail that TMZ reported was that Janelle told cops that Garrison was estranged from his father, Kody. So at the time of his passing, Kody and Garrison were still not reconciled. Now, as far as the Radar Online's reports, it gives a little bit more detail that TMZ does not give. So it says that Garrison's brother Gabe was the one to find him, and Gabriel was visibly distraught when he speaks with police, and he was located at his residence on Tuesday. Some of his siblings and roommates told police that Garrison had been struggling with mental health concerns and alcohol abuse, but his siblings believed that he was getting better since he had started a new job at the medical center. So his siblings know that he's struggling with some mental health issues. He's dealing with some substance abuse issues, but everyone thinks that everything is better. Gabriel has moved out by this point. He has a new group of roommates that are living with him. And then Janelle told police that he just stopped texting last night. And she also told them that she should have gotten Garrison help in the past before this devastating turn of events. And then she noted about that text message that I told you, I want to hate you for sharing the good times, but I can't. I miss those days. Text message that she exchanged with Garrison were between 8:34 p.m. and 8:39 p.m. And then Garrison stopped responding. On the show, they have never discussed really any sort of issues that any of the kids might have with any kind of alcohol or using of any sort of substances. It's never been addressed, and for the most part, the family has been pretty adamant that they don't partake because of their belief system. Christine's wedding was really the first time we see the Browns kind of letting their hair down and drinking. Garrison was in the wedding special, but what I remember specifically about the wedding special is that a lot of the kids were interviewed, and I don't remember him getting like a one-on-one interview. I think he might have said like a few things, but nothing significant. He wasn't on camera a lot. Obviously, it wasn't his wedding special, but he didn't have a ton of interviews in that episode. So in 2022, Janelle on the show does mention that she is worried about Garrison's mental health, and she pinpoints it to a decline that she has noticed in him due to the estrangement with his father, and that he wasn't as happy anymore, that she was worried about him, that he was a lot more angry and just not as happy-go-lucky as he used to be. And so it sounds like between that time when it was filmed in 2022 to what occurred is that she didn't get him help. And in fairness, it's really not Janelle's responsibility to get him help. Although, I mean, any parent of a child, even if it's an adult, can help encourage a child to seek help And he did have and would have had resources to services due to his involvement in the National Guard. If he had a job, he might have had insurance, but I'm sure there was options available. But it sounds like Janelle is devastated because she never took the steps to get him help. And that's, again, not her fault. What I think is telling here is that his state of mind, it appears at the end of his life, is he's upset about the way that life has turned out. He's upset about where things were today. He is sending a text message to crew members that he should hate them, meaning he maybe has some resentment towards them about the show. Maybe he feels resentful about the cameras being in their lives, everything being documented. But then he also says, I can't hate you because we shared good times together and I miss those days. So he's clearly sad about the fact that the life that they have today has changed so drastically. Because in the early seasons, the family did a lot of stuff together. They went traveling, they did RV trips, they went to Hawaii, they went to Alaska, they went to California, they went camping in Big Bear. I mean, they traveled in an RV to Missouri, they went to Montana. There was a lot that the family did together, and they did a lot of activities together. They built those boats, those cardboard boats. They did a lot of content for the show that was probably good memories that Garrison had with them and were opportunities that the family could all be together. And some of Garrison's most, his biggest moments coming home from boot camp and seeing the family, all of that gets filmed. His siblings' weddings, several of his siblings' weddings are featured. But it's the last several seasons where everything falls apart, where it's noticeable that Garrison and Gabriel just do not appear the happiest, or that they're struggling the most. And so his last text message seems to be that his state of mind was sadness about where the state of the family was. Another interesting point is that Janelle made a note to the police that Kody and Garrison were estranged, which seems to suggest to me that the estrangement he had with his dad was weighing on his heart and on his mind and was upsetting to him. And he likely didn't want to be estranged, but he was, as a result of Kody's actions, of everything that had transpired. So it seems like it's sort of a mix of frustration about the show, frustration about his dad, and then mix that in with his mental health and substance abuse, and he ends his life. This is what I'm gleaning from the way that the police report is stating how his life was in the days that he was right before he passes. As I was uploading and editing this video, a copy of the police report arrived after I'd requested one so I could get a look at what was being reported. And I noticed that in a conversation they had with one of the roommates, they said that Robert had been dealing and been very depressed lately. He also said that Robert is an alcoholic and drinks every night. They asked if Robert was intoxicated last night when they talked, and he stated that he was. He advised that Robert always asks him for rides late at night to get food because he's intoxicated and he can't drive. And he advised that Robert has never said anything to him that would raise a red flag. He stated that he knew that Robert was having problems with his ex-girlfriend and that he was not a very happy person at the moment. Also from the report, it sounds like the popping noise that they heard, the roommates described it very differently in terms of like how each one of them heard it. One roommate said that when they went to go use the bathroom, they actually smelled smoke in the hallway, but they didn't think that it was anything, or no one checked on Garrison. And it, again, wasn't until Gabriel got there in the morning that this transpired, where they find him. And when Gabriel is met by the officers, he's obviously very distraught. And he does tell them that Garrison had been dealing with alcohol abuse, that he was dealing with mental health issues. And then again, Janelle walks in while they're interviewing Gabriel, and she just tells them that about the text messages, and she also mentions that he's estranged from his dad. And in the middle of all of this, Gabe leaves to go pick up Kody and bring him to the scene. So it sounds like they were still estranged at the time that this all happens. When she arrives there, Janelle shows them her phone, which gives them an understanding of what he was sending to people. And the last text message that he sent to that group had to do with the issues with he missed the days that the way things once were. The roommate says that hasn't been happy. He's been drinking a lot. He drinks every single night. He has to get rides in the middle of the night so that they can go get food, and that he's been struggling. And nobody says that he had gotten any help. One of the roommates says that Garrison told him he was going to stop this month. That's what his plan was. He was going to get clean. So when Gabe arrives, he didn't even really see what transpired, and apparently he was sitting up when he found him, and he thought he was just asleep until he actually looked at him, and that's when he called for help. It's really tragic that at the very final moments of his life, he's struggling with alcohol, and he grew up in a society that really is abstinent from alcohol. He also grew up in a culture that mental illness is not, unfortunately, taken seriously, and people don't get help for mental health. It's sort of viewed in that culture that they grow up in and that they're indoctrinated in. Mental illness is looked at as a weakness. It's looked at as something's wrong with you, not that there's actually a chemical imbalance. And they discourage using psychologists. They discourage going to doctors for this. And even though he's out of that world, that could still be kind of permeating the belief system of him, and maybe permeating some of the family members struggling with how to handle the issue. And then with all of them being fundamentalists, not having the capacity to understand how to handle substance abuse, because people in this culture are not drinkers. They don't use substances. It just sounds like a complete tragedy all the way around. And it just sounds like he was so sad, and he was clearly crying out for help, but also doing a pretty good job of hiding things from people in his life. So yesterday people were saying, don't blame Kody, don't blame this person, don't blame that person. You can't blame anyone, really. All you can say is that in his state of mind at the end, this is how he was feeling. These were the messages he was sending. But his roommate also says he's intoxicated when this happens. Kody and Garrison had not spoken in years, apparently. Or if they had, it hadn't been much, because the Sun is basically reporting that they don't have much contact. Kody and him never made up. They never reconciled. And that was a heavy part of his pain. My heart goes out to the family. I don't know how the family recovers from this. My biggest concern is for, obviously, Gabe, because he was the one that walked into it and saw this, and he was so close to his brother. And knowing that his final text messages are to members of the crew, I can definitely see why the family would want privacy. They probably don't want that information known. But I also don't know how TLC moves forward with this show, knowing that one of the pain points for him had to do with the show. And then all you have to do is go and look back at last season and the last few seasons to see how Kody's spoken about those boys, to see why Garrison would be struggling and how that would impact his mental health. It certainly isn't the cause, I want to be clear, but it would hurt him. It would cause him pain. And if he doesn't have a counselor and he doesn't have mental health support, it could certainly result in a spiral and finding coping mechanisms like alcohol to numb that pain, to try to get through that pain. It's so sad. My heart goes out to the family. I don't know what TLC is going to do now that this information is out, but a path forward on the show seems hard given the reality of what has come to pass. My heart goes out again to the family, my deepest condolences to them, and I'm just heartbroken to know that this was where he was at the end, and to know that he could have gotten help and he didn't get help, and maybe had he gotten help, this wouldn't have happened. Thank you all for watching today. If you like these videos, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and as always, leave a comment about your thoughts in the comments below. Bye, guys.